So, good day, everyone. The topic of our debate for today is about martial law is justifiable. But first, let me define the key terms of our topic. So, there are two key terms martial law and justifiable. According to the author of the journal Law and Order, martial law involves temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule and is usually invoked in time of war, rebellion, or natural disaster. And justifiable, according to the dictionary, can be defended as being just or right, which means that proclaiming martial law during Marcos' regime is right and just. We, the affirmative team, believes that martial law is justifiable. So for today's debate, we have structured our case as follows. The first speaker will be talking about the reasons why martial law was declared and what makes it right and just. The second speaker will elaborate the experiences of those people under martial law. And the third speaker will talk about the good things of martial law, which also proves that martial law is justifiable. Good day once again. I am the first speaker, and I will be talking about the reasons why martial law was declared, as well as what makes it justifiable or what makes it right and just. We believe that the declaration of martial law was just and right. This is because it saved our country from the threat of communist takeover and stopped the growing rebellion throughout the country. If it's not because of martial law, what do you think will happen to our country? Base nang namuno nato karon our mga komunista. So former President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law to install stability and order because according to him, there was a complete anarchy throughout the country at that time. When we say anarchy, Russia an nation nga walay rules or walay mga mando gikan sa government. So what is the status of the government on that particular period? So former President Ferdinand Marcos stated that our government was immobilized or not moving, impotent, or powerless. Armed forces could not move out. No income coming into the government, and everybody was running away. So he also declared martial law because of the communist threat throughout the country, which is my second point. The rising violence of communists justifies martial law. We believe that the rising violence of the communists justifies martial law. This is because before the declaration of martial law in 1972, Plaza Miranda bombing took place on August 1971, followed by the series of bombings in Manila from March 15 to September 11, 1972, 12 days before former President Ferdinand Marcos proclaimed martial law on national television. Based from the article of the Philippine Daily Inquirer, there were several bombings occurred in different places of Manila, including the Palace Theater on Ronquillo Street, department store on Carrido Street, building of Philippine Long Distance Telephone Company, entrance of the boardroom of the Filipinas Orient Airways, porch of the South Vietnamese Embassy, Philippine Trust Company branch in Cubao, Phil American Life Building, Senate Publication Division, and the Philippine Sugar Institute in Quezon City, and the SWA building in San Rafael. So these bombings were attributed to the communist group or the CPP, NPA, and DF nga gipanguluhan ni Jose Maria Sison, which also Ruben Guevara, one of the CPP founding fathers and former NPA commander and retired Armed Forces of the Philippines Brigadier General Victor Corpus, also made statements alleging Jose Sison and the CPP responsible for the bombings. So are the bombings and the rising violence of the communists enough to justify martial law? Yes. Again, martial law is invoked in time of rebellion. And it's very clear that there was an act of rebellion during that time, like the bombings. So they were also a threat to public safety and disrupted the peace and order of the country, which is the main purpose why martial law was declared. Because President Marcos wanted to maintain peace and order throughout the country. So we, the affirmative team, conclude that the declaration of martial law is right and just because it saved our country from the threat of the communist takeover. We also concluded that the rising violence and the series of bombings justifies martial law because they were the main reason why martial law was declared, or stop the growing rebellion or the rising violence and aggressiveness of the opposing team. Thank you.
Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. I am the second speaker for today, and I'm gonna tell you some of the people who feel okay when they experience martial law under President Ferdinand Marcos regime. I can say to you that as long as you follow the law, you'll be okay. According to my father, Romeo Montesor, who was 13 years old when martial law started and 20 years old when it ended, he experienced martial law from the start. He stated that during martial law it was peaceful and the people are disciplined. The terrorist group called New People Army was strong in Visayas, but because of the martial law, their forces become weaker. The crime and violence has also decreased in Barangay Timbanga and other barangay nearby. Selling of illegal drugs decreased. So, muna yung unang example. Next, Eddie Garcia, an actor. He was 43 years old when martial law was declared by President Marcos. He said in an interview that he never experienced a nightmare during the martial law period. During his interview on the movie ML, he stated that during martial law, the street was silent, peaceful, clean, and everyone was behaved. The people don't jaywalking on the street and scattering garbage unlike now. So, next example, uh, Mario Benjamin Florido. He was 18 years old when martial law started in 1972. He is a metro he is in Metro Manila on that time. He stated that during martial law, his life was normal. He added that only people who are affected are those who really rally and disobey the law, but himself don't participate or disobey the law. It is not affected. Also, he doesn't believe those people who say they abuse by the soldier during martial law because he believes they only do it for publicity. And Benigno S. Aquino Jr. was the founder of SCPP-NPA that caused the conflict to the Marcos government. He believes that. As a second speaker for today, I can conclude that martial law is not a nightmare and justifiable. President Ferdinand Marcos only declares to protect the public safety of the people, to maintain order to this country, and to fight the terrorism that occurs during his term. That's all. Thank you.
So my teammates already discussed about, already explained why martial law is justifiable. So I am going to explain the importance of martial law and why it's important and the good things that martial law did in our country. So what are the positive of martial law? So lots of people think, especially those people na victim of President Marcos, and they think that martial law is only contributed evil things in our country, only evil things and bad things. So especially those people na being harassed, being abused, and for those people who's being arrested without any warrant, and for those people na rape by the military officials. So bisan po ako, if may tabo na ako, if I was in their position, negative ako naan sa martial law. But without knowing, martial law also contributed good things in our country, especially sa mga tao. They making us more disciplined. More disciplined. So according to Joseph Gonzalez, a journalist and Argentinian who is also a victim of Marcos, he was been arrested as as a student leader and detained without charges. So according to him, what he liked the most about martial law was the discipline of both rich and poor. The rich who committed all forms of social injustices against the poor were disciplined through massive social charges and development. The poor were also disciplined. The curfew was imposed. The young ones are not allowed to roam around at night. The students were also trained to work and not to behave as a spoiled brat. Unlike today, dagan kayo mga spoiled brat. So, how can you say that martial law is bad in our country? So the only bad in the martial law is that the military itself and the person behind them. So my grandparents said that the good thing about martial law is that they given the exact amount of salary they deserve at that time. Kaya katong wala pay martial law kuno. Gamay kay ilang sweldo di sila hatagag sa exact nga salary nila. So wala sila mabuhat kay kung dili sila mo trabaho, wala sila makaon. So and they also said that it is better when there's still martial law, because when the night comes, no one's roams around except the military. The people in the country will made to respect the environment. So atong panahon na, if mugawas ka, maprisugod ka. Pero kung kuan pa na karon, kanang nga balaod idala pa na siya karon karon nga panahon na wala na untay mga gamay na unta kay mga crimes, mga mag-inom, mag-away kay nung doon sa away kay mag-inom ng good siya. And also gamay na kay ang mga teen nga mamabdos tungod ana kay wala na mag-inom mga barkada, bawal na sila magkawas ng gabi. Unlike today nga paling mga lagaan na. So and also if tarong lang gud ang military sa una, military sa kuan kining good feedback gud ang mahatag na ko sa nato sa martial law kay para man pud nato to. Pero ang pamahala ra gud ato may sayop. And also the martial law is the people in the country were made to respect the environment. So bawal sila manghihi bisag asa, bawal sila manglabay, mangluwa. If ingon anak lang gud ta limpyo ra gud kayo unta ang atong environment samot ng anang Pilipinas, limpyo ra gud unta kaayo kung maayo lang gud ta pagdisiplina. Kaso wala na may martial law. So and also karon nga sitwasyon na if naa pag martial law, dili kayo mukalat ang COVID-19 tungod sa di na kayo mukalat ang COVID-19 kay disiplinado naman ta, kabalo na ta unsay sayop og dili. So para nako, so for me it is better that martial law will come back to rule the country, kaninga country. If that happens, in the Philippines will become better country and also the people around it. So thank you.
So our sources includes video footage of the speeches of former President Ferdinand Marcos regarding martial law and the videos of the interviews of those people who experience it, as well as interviewing our family members na nakaabot sa martial law. So we also used secondary sources like articles to elaborate our stand, like the list of the series of bombing happened in Manila. So for the content, the first speaker argues that the declaration of martial law was right and just to save our country from the threat of the rebellion group. Second, the rising violence and the series of bombings justifies martial law because, first of all, they were one of the main reasons why martial law was declared. Aside from that, they were a threat to the public safety and caused chaos to the country. Kaliwat kana na ang pagbomba ato na tayma, which is why martial law was declared to hold peace and order throughout the country. Third, martial law was bad for those who were against it and good for those who knows how to follow rules. So ika nga nila, during martial law, our country was peaceful, silent, walay nagkalat-kalat nga hubog because of liquor ban, and we all know that alcoholic drinks ang usa sa mga rason nganong na ay mga away. And also people were disciplined. Lastly, there were good things happened during martial law, like sakto ang sweldo nga na dawat sa mga workers, and aside from that, barato ang mga goods or the goods were cheap, unlike karon nga mahal na jud ang mga palaliton. So we, the affirmative team, agrees that martial law is justifiable. And that ends our presentation. Thank you.